plenty. Look at that wand. It hums with inner source.
The soul jar stands on its plinth, glowing softly. From within, you can almost hear the whisper of a voice. You see, or rather, you feel a far-off land. Frozen breath hangs in the air, pine needles brush your cheeks, and in your arms you can feel a weight, a body, dead. But you have hope. Your vision swims. You're older, but perhaps not wiser. You march at the head of a shambling host, the enemies of Brachus Rex melting before you. The scene twists again. Now Brachus stands before you, a beautiful woman at his side. You lash out in treasonous rage, but cold arms bind you. You're sealed away in a tower. Your screams fill the darkness. You feel a jolt and open your eyes to see the soul jar before you, lying still in the vault. Your hand falls from the jar and grips the pillar as you try to calm your ragged breathing. As you remove the lid, a fresh wind fills the room. For a moment, you think you smell pine, and then power rushes inside you. You can feel source coursing through your veins. For a moment, you're seeing through someone else's eyes. You behold a dungeon, a deck of cards in your hand, and a pair of skeletons before the vision passes. The necromancer's memories fade to black, but the feelings remain.
The memories of a necromancer. What could be more vile?
The jar on the plinth before you seems ancient, but is in surprisingly good condition. It's covered in pictograms that you can't understand, but you're sure you just saw one of them move. The pictograms spin to life, and you're dragged into a dream. You see the lizards of the ancient empire turning their backs on you, casting you out into the wilderness. As you roam, the human apes turn away from you. All but one. One smiles, one opens his arms, one says he'll take you home. Brachus Rex. He promises power for a price. He picks off your golden scales, one by one, stripping you down to the bone. He promised you a crown, but all you got was shackles. You try to fight, try to reclaim what's yours, but a woman takes you by the hand and leads you to a tower. He promised he'd take me home, you cry. You are home, she smiles as she seals the door. This is where you belong. Your hand drops away from the soul jar, your skin prickling. In the back of your mind, you hear a small, scared voice whimper before fading to nothing. Something within you strains. You are replete. You cannot absorb more source. The pictograms on the jar stand fixed and still. You see a shape emerge from the ruins of the broken jar, a lizard in the finest necromancer robes. It grudgingly nods at you as it starts to fade.
Farewell to flesh. Farewell to bone.
The long-dead lizard's visions fade.
This is the price of pride and greed. The villain got what he deserved.
You made it all this way. I'm sorry.
He trembles and seems to shudder with a quiet sob.
I'm cursed, you know. Bloody Brachus bound me here to protect his vault. He has my soul in that jar just there, and I can't leave without it. As long as the jar stays unbroken, I can never truly die. I don't rightly know. This was the Source King's way. Befriend you, then destroy you. I was a fool to expect I'd be an exception. His favor was intoxicating. That's no excuse, but it is the reason. Really? You would?
He drops to his knees before you and grabs onto your feet with both hands, head hanging.
Thank you.
The jar before you may have looked opulent once, but no longer. Now it's covered in grime, its paint chipped away, and its jewels long stolen. The soul jar rocks slightly, light flashing from under. As soon as you touch the jar's cracked surface, you see a vision of splendor, silks, fine food, and decadent lechery. But underneath it all lies bone and blood. The vision shifts. You see burning villages, slaughtered women and children. You see her, purging wand in hand, standing amongst it all. She throws her head back and laughter echoes in your skull. A shadow falls across her, and you see a large, weeping face. She reaches out as if to comfort, but Brachus drags her back. You see her fall into the mire of the swamp, trapped. As you pull your hand away, you can feel a deep, longing sadness in your soul. Is it regret, or just sadness for a life that used to be? Something inside you strains. You are replete. You can... The terrible vision fades.
While she lived a selfish life, she seems to have repented. She should be forgiven.
The jar sits still. It seems inert. Gratiana's soul flits through the air, eyes wild and desperate. She turns to you as her spirit starts to fade from this world.
Freedom! But I'm not ready! No, you can't! No!
Good find.
This jar glitters and glows. From within, you think you can make out the distant sound of laughter. With a jerk, your mind is pulled to a scene in a tavern. You see a dwarf in the center of the room, joking us all around roar with laughter. All bar the zombies, who are slavishly serving food and drink. The door opens, and a tall, beautiful woman stalks into the room. She's flanked by heavily armed guards. You can't make out her words, but see the fear in the dwarf's eyes. The dwarf mutters a word, and the undead lurch towards the intruder, but are cut down like wheat. The dwarf tries to run, pushing her friends into the woman's path, but is grabbed before she can escape. As she's dragged away to a tower, you hear her cursing Brachus Rex and his whore. Even when she's thrown inside and the door sealed, you can still hear her shouts. You pull your hand away from the jar, your head swimming. You can feel the dwarf's cold terror still twisting in your gut. The vision fades.
I've rarely seen such cowardice on display.
A soul jar rests between two fallen columns, emanating a faint odor of seaweed and timber. When you touch the glass, your vision wavers. You emerge on the prow of a fine ship. Your armor pulses with enchantment, dominating those who draw near. Your flag flies for Brachus Rex, a tyrant who traded for your soul. With his power, your flesh and blood is no longer relevant. The vision fades as the soul thrashes, trying to sever your connection. In the end, greed masters you. You seek out the tyrant's vault to retrieve your soul, but Brachus is ready with a trap. Thus imprisoned, you can only dream about what is out of reach, your soul and that alluring armor. The vision shatters as the soul squirms away from you. Curling up in the bottom of the soul jar pulses with trapped life force. The soul jar pulses with what remains of the outraged soul molds itself into a defiant skull, glowering at you before it vanishes.
That snake worm!
The deity's head and hands are missing, severed as if by a sword. You can't tell if this was meant to be symbolic somehow, or a mere act of vandalism. As you take in its chiseled details, you have a vision. The statue comes to life and embraces you awkwardly with its broken arms. Unable to resist, you're flown away into an endless dark.
That shrine seems to have brought me here. What is this place?
There you are. You found me.
The amorphous figure takes hold of both your hands and squeezes them.
You look... You look so good. How are you, darling? What? Don't you recognize me? Come on. Look a little harder.
Within the shimmer of their changing form, the familiar lines of your own face take shape.
Are you sure? Look deeper, Losa. Beyond our face. It is so good to meet you, darling. From the outside this time. Don't get me wrong, it's divine in that body of yours, but somewhat constrictive. So, now that we're familiar, shall we get down to business? Listen carefully. This is the Hall of Echoes. A vision of it, at least. We're here because there's something you need to know. A great power within you that we need to unlock. You'll need to master this power if you're going to make it off the island. And this you must do. Everyone else on the island is chaff. Toss them away when you're done with them. Good. We don't need anyone but each other. Let me show you.
The figure waves its hands, and a great power swells within you. You feel the electric thrum of an unknown magic tingling in your fingertips.
You may have noticed incredible things happening on your journey. Water beneath your feet aiding you, for instance. It was I who channeled that power within you. You are the source. I am the catalyst. And this is only the beginning. Together, we can unlock even greater powers within you. You are God-woken. But the gods are too busy fighting each other and tempting more interesting champions to notice you. That's where I come in. With my help, you'll be capable of so much more than strumming a lute for a few gold coins. First, you've got to get off this island, at any cost. Do you understand? I didn't save you from that shipwreck just to see you drown in a puddle on this blasted island. We cannot fail, Losa. You and I are unique in all the world. You'll see.
The figure lays its hands on your shoulders, looks in your eyes, and smiles.
You can do this.
Madness! Big fire boom, lightning crash! One moment, sun! The next, I feel darkness inside me, then noise! So much noise! Clank, moan, clink, groan! I hid in a stump. I'm not a stupid squirrel. I have much stowed away for hard times. But I saw them! I saw the shinies! Shinies! Darkness left, then light again. Warm. Saw glints. You can't go there now. Salamanders. They like the meat. I don't want to be meat. Yay! Okay. I hope you find shinies. They make happy.
These plants look truly sinister. They're arranged in a ring. Is that a natural occurrence?
I need aid.
It's a great
At
chest.
the light and the chest.
These plants seem odd. I should be wary.
air out here's a damn sight better than in Fort Joy, eh? Lonely? I wouldn't think so. I went from life in the regiment, to life in the pack, to life on the road with you. I haven't had time to be lonely.
He pauses, reddening slightly as he looks at you curiously.
Unless, wait. What did you mean exactly? Ah, yes. Of course.
Ifan tips his finger.
I've spotted something.
The serenity in the eyes of the granite statue seemed to infuse the air around the shrine. This place feels like a refuge from all harm, a place where fortune favors the fleeing. For the first time in what feels like forever, you feel safe. You know this is the statue's gift. You know the feeling will not last, but you are grateful nonetheless. You feel the statue smile. You feel it embrace you. You fall into the most comfortable darkness. Loping up behind you, Ifan leans in to whisper in your ear.
Let me do the talking here. This one's expecting me.
The hooded man exudes an aura of restrained menace. As he raises his head to speak to Ifan, the hood falls back, revealing the gleaming bone visage of an undead. They speak in urgent whispers. Suddenly, the undead's bony claw pulls an elaborate crossbow from seeming thin air. It appears to be enveloped in misty shade. He proffers it to Ifan, along with a single rank-smelling arrow. Before you know it, the crossbow and arrow are tucked away in Ifan's backpack, and the conversation ends with a curt nod on both sides. Ifan knocks the crossbow with an arrow. He hoists it up to his shoulder, a satisfied smile brightening his face as he stares down the shadow-swirled stock. Raising an eyebrow, he holds it out for you to try.
Care to fire the first arrow from Shadow's Eye?
The arrow soars long and far, whistling a dusky tune as it flies against the breeze. It hits the target dead on, fletchings quivering with the impact. Ifan whistles a matching tune and gives you an admiring glance as he takes back the crossbow.
Knew you had it in you. A good weapon's one thing, but there's nothing on Riverlon like a good companion. Let's go. We'll be harder to track if we keep in motion.
He spins on one heel and begins to stride onwards, keen eyes scouring the environment for any dangers. He turns to wave you along, eyes glittering in the swampy gloom.